We just had an appointment, a consultation with a third fertility doctor that I made this appointment before we were pregnant, before the second frozen embryo transfer. It just has a long wait. I wanted to get a third doctor opinion, and it actually went really great. Did have an explanation for every single miscarriage, which was a new one because no one really explained things like, oh yeah, it's just bad luck. No, he looked at all my record and all my blood work, and he did point out that he knew I had PCOS before I even told him I had PCOS, just because of all my blood work. And he did notice that I have the luteal phase defect because I have low progesterone and it ovulates super late on my cycle. And so he explained that the first miscarriage that we got last year was caused by a chromosome abnormality, which happened 90% of the time because of when the embryo stopped growing. The second was a chemical pregnancy, and he explained that that is caused by a luteal phase defect because of I got my blood work done and my progesterone was low and I ovulated super late. And then so that caused miscarriage apparently, which I had no idea. And then he explained that the third one, which was from the first frozen embryo transfer, that one was absolutely caused by the subchorionic hematoma, even though it was a PGTA haploid embryo. I had a very significant hematoma and I was bleeding quite a lot and even having blood clots. And he explained that you cannot be bleeding that much when you're taking progesterone and oral. And all the bleeding that I had was from the subchorionic hematoma. And on the picture, you can see that the subchorionic is huge on top of the embryo. And the way he explained is that when you have a tiny, tiny embryo and the subchorionic hematoma is super big like this on top of it, covering the whole sac and the placenta, the baby is like trying to leave, is trying to like survive, but it can't because the bleeding is blocking all the circulation to the baby. And so what happened this time, even though I had a subchorionic hematoma, it was smaller and it was not on the sac, so the baby was able to grow. And he explained that now, for example, at 17 weeks, if I have subchorionic hematoma, the baby is big enough, and then the bleeding on top of it doesn't matter because the placenta will protect it. And he explained in a way is like when you're sick, your lungs still work and you can still breathe because you're a big person, and that's why that a tiny embryo cannot survive when you have such a huge hematoma on top of it. He also looked at my egg retrieval and the fact that I had 43 eggs retrieved but I only had 18 mature. And he looked and asked me about my estrogen blood work the day before the retrieval, and he said that was way too low. You should have not retrieved that early. They should have made you wait to retrieve. And also he told me because I was on Femara, also decrease your estrogen. But basically he said like the medication were not right. I retrieved and I triggered too early. All those things that also explain on why my egg retrieval didn't go as well as I would have hoped, because even though we had 43 eggs, only 18 were mature. So that's why he explained like next time if I decide to do another egg retrieval, there's other protocol, and obviously everything depends on my blood work, but there's different things to say. But he said if it was him, he would have let me go more because I did trigger early. So basically he explained that everything was because of me, not to blame me, but because of my PCOS and my hormone imbalance and all of this, and like the insulin also that doesn't help and that creates bad embryo. He did say that the fact that you only had 3 PGTA tested haploid embryo out of 7 was also bad. He said it should be higher, so either the medication had a problem or your insulin was too high, or you just didn't pay attention to your PCOS, which then triggers your insulin to get high, and then it doesn't help the egg quality either. But nothing on my husband. I keep asking like the sperm quality, it's like it doesn't matter, even though yes, he has bad morphology. The fact that he has 2 million sperm, only 50 makes it to the end goal, to the egg. And even though he has 2 million of sperm, there's only and bad morphology, the going through the vaginal tract is what is gonna make it a parkour. So the bad one will make it to the egg. So that's pretty much what he said, because my husband looks like a fit person and it doesn't look like he's unhealthy. So even though he drinks a lot or whatever, it's like, but he's a healthy guy. I wish I looked like him. That's always frustrating when everything is always to blame on the woman, and then the husband doesn't really have to do anything, because even though he drinks and even though drinking is not good for sperm. The doctor said like it doesn't matter. He didn't say it doesn't matter, but he said like he had such a high count that even though he had very bad morphology, it doesn't really matter when you do IVF and all that. Also said that how transferring the three was a bad idea because only one was euploid, the other one was like chromosomally abnormal, and it's still even though it's aneuploid or like complex abnormal or something, he said it's not technically mosaic, it's still abnormal, so he should not transfer them. And then lastly, I asked about next time when we're ready, do we need to do another egg retrieval or can we do IUI? It's like, well, if you only want one more kid, you can technically just do IUI. My biggest question was about when do I need to stop breastfeeding or all of this for an egg retrieval or an IUI, and he explained that you actually do not have to stop breastfeeding. You can just pump and dump when you're doing the shots. The thing is, because it's technically in your own body, you have the same hormone in your body. It's just so it's technically safe to do it, but it's better to pump in advance and have some in the freezer, and then you pump and dump while you're taking the medication for the next egg retrieval. But then for the transfer, yes, then you have to be completely off. But for another egg retrieval, he said you don't have to. So that is very, very good to hear, because I never really got an answer from anyone. And I asked my other clinic, and the nurse like, oh yeah, when you stop breastfeeding, just call us. Like I want an actual real explanation. And he also explained that for the IUI, and he gave me timeline about if you do a vaginal or if you do a C-section. The C-section, you have to wait nine months for a transfer, which is totally normal. It's because of the uterus. But he also explained that if we decide to do IUI, I do not have to stop breastfeeding. The trigger medication will be different, or the injection medication will definitely not make you have to stop breastfeeding at all. It's the Femara that you have to like pump and dump, I think, but it's only for 5 days once again. And also he saw from my blood work and from doing the IUI, he noticed from the IUI that my body doesn't answer to the meds actually as good as other women because of my insulin and my PCOS. So he will do it differently. He will give me other meds and be a little bit more aggressive, or even he talked about doing a mini IVF if you really want to. And once again, you do not need to stop breastfeeding. You just pumping them when you're doing the medication. So we'll definitely go with him next year. And he was very thorough and had an explanation for everything. So I felt much better having some kind of answer going forward.